6:30. Before we start the Administrative Services Committee meeting, I would like to take a moment to recognize the events that happened in Las Vegas over the evening, last night. I'd like to have a moment of silence for the victims as well as the families of this tragedy. It's becoming way too often this happens, and I'm sort of getting used to it, but I still don't want us to not keep this in our hearts and our minds and our prayers and thoughts. So please, a moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open up the Administrative Services Committee meeting for Monday, October 2nd, 2017. Please call the roll.
Councilor Corradino.
Here.
Councilor Van Buren. Absent. Councilor Reynolds.
Here.
Councilor Walker.
Here.
Councilor Emmons.
Here. Thank you. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of September 18th, 2017 committee meeting.
Second.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor Reynolds.
Yes.
Councilor Walker. Yes. Councilor Emmons.
Yes.
Any old business to discuss or bring up at this point? Seeing none, moving on to new business under authorization. Number 1, Fire Chief Randall B. Griffin is requesting permission to hold a flu shot clinic through Rite Aid at the East Side Fire Station on October 11th, 2017 from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., which will be open to the public. Any comments, concerns, questions? Seeing none, motion please.
Second.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor Reynolds.
Yes.
Councilor Walker.
Yes.
Councilor Emmons.
Yes.
Item number 2, City Assessor Sue Deary is requesting permission to transfer the sum of $6,400 as follows. $5,800 from A.1355.0450 fees for services non-employee to A.1355.0101 personal services, and $600 from A1355.0450 fees for services non-employee to A.9030.0800 employee benefits. Is there anybody here that'd like to speak to this? Please.
I'm kind of stepping in and covering for the assessor. She had to be at a training session today, so she asked me if I would come in. We had worked on this together. What we are trying to do is bring in a temporary clerk for some training purposes, as her longtime clerk is going to be retiring towards the end of the year. So we thought she had some funds available. We discussed it with the mayor, and he was in agreement to go ahead and transfer these funds. And so the person at least had some time, because it's not something you can walk in off the street and do. We need some training time, and Linda has so much knowledge that we wanted to see if there was some way we could make this work. And with this transfer, we'll be able to do that. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Questions? All? I know I recently had a conversation with Linda about some assessing information, and she is quite knowledgeable, and there is a lot to learn. And I think this is a great idea to get somebody in there to bring them up to speed. Can I have a motion, please?
Second.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor Reynolds.
Yes.
Councilor Walker.
Yes.
Councilor Emmons.
Yes.
Item number 3, City Chamberlain Deborah Code requests a budget amendment to the water fund line item F.8320.0410 in the amount of $15,000 for the purchase of water meters. Mrs. Code?
Thank you, Counselor. This is on behalf of Mr. Bell. They've been busy selling water meters up there, and the cost of the meters have increased as well. So this should take them through the end of the year.
Thank you. Questions for Mrs. Code? How about a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor Reynolds.
Yes.
Councilor Walker.
Yes.
Councilor Emmons.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
Mrs. Code, do we have a resolution? Thank you very much. Item number 4, DPW Commissioner Tom Kells requests several transfers within the Department of Public Works budget to cover insufficient funds in various accounts, as well as monies to purchase winter equipment that is still needed. Each transfer request is shown on the attachment. Commissioner Kells, I know that the attachment does outline everything. Did you want to add anything to this?
Counselors, just that this is, this piece of equipment is really old that we're going to be replacing, and hopefully we don't need it, but if we do, it's very important.
Thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Kells at this point? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
Mr. Kells, need a resolution? Thank you very much. Item number 5, Counselor Corradino is requesting the Common Council approve the transfer of funds from the General Fund contingent account A.1990.0460 to the Common Council contracted services account A.1010.0440 in the amount of $2,100 to fund a winter parking survey mailer. 3 quotes are attached for consideration. I guess I'll start the conversation. I think we all remember last episode of as the winter parking survey turns, we talked about gathering more information. I think the gist of where we left it was that we really shouldn't be changing the city parking ban or parking permit system until we have more information. And when I left here that night, I thought that we should try to gather that information, whether it's for this season or next season. So I remembered that we had a very successful dog enumeration survey that went out. I gave each of you a sample of what we did last year on the dog enumeration. It was very successful. And using the same design and same layout, I'm thinking that something like this that would go out in the mail using the U.S. Post Office's EDDM mailing program. It would go to every resident, every house, I should say, that has a mailbox, and residents, if they're so inclined, would return it and basically answer a series of questions that would help us determine whether additional parking is needed on the street during the winter. I don't have any copy for us at this point because I wasn't going to go through and determine what the actual wording was going to be until we discussed this, and if it passed, then we could go to that next step. But I'm more than willing to listen to any comments or concerns. I encourage people to comment, especially the counselor of the first ward who this kind of affects the most as far as winter parking. So I'll open it up for discussion to anybody here as well. Counselor?
I think this is a great step towards getting information for a parking survey, and I'm glad. Thank you for taking the initiative to do this.
Any other comments? Counselor Gosek?
Yeah, I talked to Councilor Van Buren, and he supports this, and I do as well, obviously. I agree with the mayor, we should be changing this out. And it's something hard, made to help us, hopefully help people, and encourage people to listen to their idea of what people want. Or sometimes we lose sight of that when we're sitting up here. That's really what the people want. We're certainly having, I think it'll be interesting to see what the results are. So, comments?
Thank you. I did forget to mention that in conjunction with the actual mailer, we could have a survey that could be answered via our website. So, between the mailer and people who don't want to use the U.S. mail, I would hope that we'd get quite a bit of information, accurate information on making this decision. Any other comments on this topic? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
Yes, I'll work on that. Item number 6. Mayor Barlow is requesting a discussion on the proposal for professional engineering services provided by Delta Engineers, Architects, and Land Surveyors for the Oswego Riverwalk West Enhancement and Market Street Pocket Park. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. I'll just take a moment to give the council a brief update on the DRI and the process. A few months ago, we met with the Department of State, who's actually administering the $10 million grant. And they tasked the city with sending us back to get as much information from the property owners who received allocations from the DRI. So we had to talk with those property owners and get as much information about their projects as we possibly could. Once we got as much information from the property owners, then the city called a meeting between the Department of State and the property owners so that the three of us could all be in a room and talk about the schedule, how money will be allocated, what the process is, who administers the grant, so on and so forth. So after those meetings, it's really becoming quite clear, and it's very exciting on how quickly some of these projects are ready to go. The city is actually going to, each project, depending on the nature of the project, is designated to a certain state agency, but the city is essentially the middleman and actually accepts invoices from the property owners who do work to their building or their projects. We take those invoices, send them to the state, and then the state reimburses those property owners. So, and after our last meeting, I think 2 weeks ago now, the state has given the property owners and the city the go-ahead to start with these projects, and the property owners can be reimbursed as they go. There's some of the projects like the Children's Museum, that's always a work in progress, so that's going on. The Cahill Building's a work in progress, so that's going on. But some of the projects that haven't started, I think will start seeing some progress in the spring. Most notably, the Global Buffet building, that project I think will be one of the first projects out of the gate. Renovations, or the restoration of the Buckout Jones building, I think will be a project that will be out of the gate. So the other part is, with our first meeting with the state, we were told that the city would actually administer the parts of the DRI that involve public space. And there are 3 projects really. That's Complete Streets, the 104 Complete Streets project, the Pocket Park, and the Riverwalk enhancements. So those 3 projects are totally the city's responsibility to administer. Those projects will happen as quickly as the city pushes to make them happen. So naturally, I want to push that timeline as quickly as possible and be ready to go into spring when they're repaving 104 anyway. So that brings us to the 2 items on the agenda tonight. The first one is the Pocket Park and Riverwalk enhancement. We received an allocation out of the $10,680,000, $600 for Riverwalk improvements, $80,000 for the Pocket Park. Doesn't necessarily have to be divvied up that way, because we talked to the state and we'd prefer to merge the 2 and just have $680,000 for that area. We designated from the Bridge Street Bridge north as area that really needs work. And rather, if you walk down the Riverwalk now, which I know Councilor Gozick does, I do just about every day, walking my dog, the Riverwalk itself is actually in pretty good shape and is kind of a comfortable place to be. Trees, grass, it's a nice format. So we actually instructed this firm, which this firm was provided on a list by the state anyway. They were already doing our waterfront work because of the high flood level, so it was easiest just to reach out to them. We had this firm target Bridge Street North, but also, rather than that Riverwalk, because the Riverwalk's in relatively good shape and is quite appealing and enjoyable now, focus more on the Water Street parking lot and enhancing that parking lot, adding some green space. You'll notice there's a lot of concrete there now. We also wanted them to look at Water Street itself and see if there's anything we can do differently, limit blacktop, limit the amount of concrete, take a look at traffic patterns and see what could actually be done to enhance Water Street itself, tie it into that parking lot, and of course any enhancements with any money we may have left over to adding some flower beds or green space to the Riverwalk itself would be a nice idea. We also mentioned the idea of adding a staircase from the bridge down to the Riverwalk, depending on how, just to increase accessibility that way and allow another way for folks to get from the other side of 104 to the Water Street area without crossing 104 at all, using that Riverwalk without having to go all the way down and loop all the way up. We entertain that. That'll be expensive. We'll see how the numbers shake out. We asked this firm to come up with a bunch of different scenarios, look at Water Street being the top priority, give us another scenario where enhancing the parking lot would be a top priority, give us another scenario where that staircase and the Riverwalk improvements itself will be the top priority, just so we can see the different scenarios, see how funding shakes out, and obviously how far we can get with the amount of money we have. Pocket Park that was talked about in detail during the entire process. That's the area between where the coffee connection is now and the Ferris wheel. They actually call it Market Street. There's like 6 parking spots there, and it's just complete waste of space. So we're talking about they'll have to come up with a design to level that off, create some sort of park where there's some green space, some benches, trees. I asked them to include some sort of a small stage where maybe we could have an acoustic act, play some light music on any given night of the week. I think it'd just be another reason to try to, which our ultimate goal is, as you all know, is to draw people from the south side of Bridge Street to the north side. That area is known to retailers who have a shop there now as the dead zone. So we need to talk about, we need to give people reasons to cross 104 and get to the other side of the street, and I think this Pocket Park will help. So after talking to Justin, we received this quote. Out of the $680,000, the designs will be $49,500 out of that grant. That's actually low in comparison to other projects. That's about 7%. Usually, again, asking Justin, you can bet that usually these designs come back at 10 to 12% of project costs. So that was actually a little lower than we were anticipating. And then just looking at the Complete Streets project, because there's we received $1 million in the DRI. We also won $500,000 from the TAP grant, so it's actually $1.5 million. But because the TAP grant is federal funds, there's a bit of a different process. Again, they provide you a list of firms. You send out a request for qualification, and because it's federal money, their process is different where they don't, money is not part of that criteria. You have to base the firm off of their work or their material they give you. So we had a scoring committee with Justin, Tim, and Tom, and got some proposals back, and Barton and LaJudas, which we're familiar with their work on some other projects, came back and scored the highest. That project's the same thing. As quickly as the city wants to get going and administer that project, it'll happen. Obviously, both of these projects I want to start right in the spring, so we want to get going now. Any questions?
Questions for the mayor? Yes, Council.
The question I had was about the Complete Streets one, because we had a Complete Streets project and scope just happened. I know that was all of 104, and this is a targeted spot. I guess I'm interested in how that information that was gathered in the previous study for Complete Streets will be incorporated, or can it be incorporated within this particular project?
Yeah, so the work that's been done, isn't street level work. The only stuff we saw is the map overhead and some, basic ideas. Their job is to actually price out what it's going to cost to paint a bike lane, to have a curb out, to have a garden replace concrete, to add green space, to add trees, benches, flower boxes, whatever. So they actually have to do more in-depth, more detail, and actually come back and show you what it's going to look like, on First and Bridge, rather than kind of the 30,000-foot view that we were provided before. This area of Complete Streets, 1 million was for West First and West Second along Bridge Street specifically. With the additional 500,000 that we received from TAP, we'll be able to, either expand any additional costs that we find within that area, or keep going in any one direction. I like the idea of moving down the bridge, try to do some stuff east, but we have to pay attention to the DRI target zones, or DRI target area as well. So, we'll just have to see, but the goal is hopefully we'll get some more with extra 500,000 past just that West First and West Second area.
Just one question I had. I just was a little confused on something you said that I thought of. You were saying something about that like when there's developers that are going to be involved in the DRI program, they could submit invoices as they go, and they're going to get reimbursed as they submit them. It's not. I was under the impression, and again, I don't know where I heard this, that they had to complete the project before they got their money. Can you clarify that?
Well, yeah, so a lot of grants that the city receives or that property owners receive, it is you have to front, for instance, Restore New York, something we're going to be applying for maybe next committee council cycle. You have to do the project, you're reimbursed after. The good thing about the DRI grant that we learned is that it will be reimbursed as you go. So they can go down and put doors and windows on the Cahill building, send the city the invoice. We process the invoice, send it to the state, and they get paid. 3-4 week turnaround is what they say. However, well, I don't, yeah.
Okay. All right, that clarifies it.
I'll say, I just don't want. We are moving quicker than most other DRI communities, so I think, we're going to be I'll say this, we're going to be the first to test the process. So when we first start getting invoices, not to get too into it, but the group of property owners that received allocations in our DRI, and I'll credit Justin and the city with a lot of, I'll give the city this credit, is we did a lot of the vetting on a lot of these projects in the beginning. So we're moving quicker than a lot of the DRI communities because these property owners are, their projects were given to us ready in some stage. So they're just really getting their ducks in a row now. And like I said, some of them are ready to send invoices now. So, we're ahead from we're like one of the first invoices going to come from the city of Oswego for the whole DRI process statewide because we're just moving that quickly.
Good to hear that we're moving fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions for the mayor on this topic? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
Make motion.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
Need a resolution from Mr. Justin Rudgick. Item number 7. Mayor Barlow is requesting council approval to select Barton and Rouge E&L as the qualified firm to prepare scope of services, proposed fee, for preliminary and final design, construction support, construction and inspection for the downtown Oswego Route 104 Complete Streets project entered into contract negotiations. We just discussed this, so I don't think we need to discuss it any further, do we?
Make motion.
Motion.
Second.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
We need a resolution. I see Mr. Rudgick is more than willing and able to do that. I believe that was the last item for the Administrative Services Committee. Are there any other issues, old, new?
Second.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds.
Yes.
Counselor Walker. Yes. Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Councilor Van Buren not here. I'm going to oversee the Physical Services Committee meeting, so I'd like to call the Physical Services Committee meeting to order. We take the roll.
Counselor Van Buren, absent. Counselor Emmons.
Here.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Here.
Counselor Goza.
Here. I guess a motion to approve the minutes of September 18th, 2017.
Make a motion.
Second.
Counselor Emmons?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Gozick?
Yes. Is there any old business to come before this committee? If not, then we'll go on to the new business. First item, we have the engineer's office has received a request for use of public space submitted by Stephen Joya III, tenant of a commercial building located 89 East First Street, Second Ward, in order to place two 3-foot by 2-foot A-frame signs between the curb and sidewalk, one fronting East First Street, one fronting New York State Route 104. Is there anyone here to speak to this? I know Steve, and I know he was here before. He was going to have a block party, and I know he's opened up his own insurance company over there. So basically, I think he just wants to advertise. I don't know if anyone.
Make a motion.
Second.
Counselor Emmons?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Gozick?
Yes. Second item, Mayor Barlow has received a request from the Oswego County SPCA for use of public space in order to place an advertising sign for their upcoming Holiday fundraiser event to be held on November 5th, 2017. Is there anyone here to speak to this? But, I'm assuming it's for dogs, right?
Holiday.
Mayor Barlow, you know anything about this? All right, you're a big dog lover, but all right. So is there any discussion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Counselor Emmons?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Gozick?
Yes. Okay, and let's see. We got a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh. Why not?
I'm sorry. I don't know if you discussed this before, and I don't know which committee it would come up before, but could someone please tell me what's going on with Midtown Plaza?
So Midtown Plaza is, did receive an allocation, the DRI, a big one, and was it 1.5 or 2 million? 2 million. So we met with the developer for that site, obviously, as part of the DRI meetings, and a lot of the projects I'm very excited about, and the developers are equally as excited, and they're putting numbers together and getting going. There's still some difficulty on the private side of Midtown, and I think the Sutton is trying their best to fill their gap, their funding gap, to make that project happen. And they have the $2 million from the DRI to do that, and based on our meeting before, they still have a gap that they feel they need to close before they can move ahead. So, I mean, on the city's end, we're doing all we can. I mean, it comes up all the time, but they have a fifth of the DRI funding that the city received, and in 2016, I wrote a letter of support for their CFA application. Didn't get funded in 2016. That's not a decision the city makes. That goes to the REDC. But I wrote a letter of support, and we're as supportive as we can. And that's it.
Do we have any legalities connected to that area that needs to be cleared up now?
Nothing active, Kevin. I mean, since I've been on council back in 2014, I don't really remember ever. I think the legalities were done before I even came on council in 2014. I never really remember discussing any of it. So that was done a long time ago, and it is coming down to the developer wanting to do the project and being able to do the project. But on the city side, I know I've personally done everything I can to make that project have the best shot it can to happen.
Second.
Counselor Emmons?
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin?
Yes.
Counselor Goza?
Yes.
Yes, Alpha.